Hello, welcome. This is the first in an attempt at offering Pacific Southwest District Youth and Family Ministry resource videos. I want to welcome and thank Celeste and Heather of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Orange for being here, although I guess for letting me be here with you guys. The reason we're doing this is we're wanting to talk with you guys because over this last summer you'd offered a rather unique approach to a children's ministry in offering a special needs vacation Bible school, which is not the kind of thing that most churches are tackling these days, although perhaps this is kind of a way of the future and something for many of our churches to at least give some consideration for. So thank you for the time this afternoon and for your openness and willingness to discuss this and share with folks on, I'm assuming we'll probably put this on YouTube. So anyway, thank you. Let me just dive in and get this conversation started. So what inspired you to create a special needs VBS at St. Paul's?
Well, my husband, Mark, and I have two kids with special needs. One who is moderate to severely autistic, and another one that is just Asperger's. And what we've really been struggling with over the past 15 years with our oldest son is for him to be able to have a place where he can learn about Jesus, where he's not alienated, where he doesn't feel like people are judging him for his behaviors, but also in a way not to alienate families of children with special needs, to include them in the ministries that we offer here at St. Paul's. My heart has just very much been convicted that as a church body, we don't necessarily do a very great job of that, of including those kind of families with those kind of special needs. We do our church services giving the scary eagle eye to the people whose children are not behaving, and we're like, there's a narthex you can take them to until they calm down. And that, with a child with special needs, I think kind of gives off the idea that Jesus isn't for them. And that's one thing that I've really struggled with being a mom of children with special needs, is to create an environment where they experience that Jesus is for them. So I spoke with Celeste when we came in here about my passion for children with special needs and for those families, and with you, and she said, hey, let's do it. She was very supportive, very flexible and agreeable. She has an amazing program already in place here, years strong, hundreds of kids, hundreds of volunteers, hundreds of people involved, successful, and she was willing to take that jump of faith to kind of fake it with me and see how it turned out.
Okay, well, good. So then, the next natural question is, so what is a special needs VBS? So kind of defining, it sounds interesting, but put some flesh to that. What is a special needs VBS?
Yeah, I think the beauty of it is that there's not just one way to do a special needs VBS. I think what we found is, like Heather was saying, we already had a pretty strong VBS program going. For many years, we had over 100 volunteers, a great reputation with our school and with our community, and we didn't necessarily create even a separate week or a separate program for those kids. They had their own group within the larger VBS, so they were included with the larger group in things like the opening and the closing for the music, and then a lot of the other activities, from the Bible adventure to games, they were able to do on their own. So they got a good mix of activities that were tailored just to them, as well as being included with the rest of the group. And I really liked that feel. Not that there's anything wrong with separating them completely, their own week, their own program, but I think it gave the rest of the kids a chance to include them and see that they need to be welcomed here, and at the same time the leaders were able to tweak the curriculum
Right.
to meet the needs of those kids. So we used the same curriculum, just tailored to their level and to their needs. So
We definitely, what Celeste was saying, that we really felt it was important to have the kids interact with the other staff, interact with the typical kids. We felt, it would broaden the awareness of the children involved in the program, broaden the idea of tolerance, acceptance, and maybe even an appreciation for or a passion for. I can't tell you how many of the actual volunteers, who a lot of them were junior high kids, actually came up to me and said, I really had a good time with this. And asking questions to clarify, maybe the disability of one child or another, to seek to understand rather than to just do a flippant judge. But when I define a special needs VBS, we got some special ed professionals involved with tweaking the curriculum, as Celeste was saying, but we did, we just picked an age group, like I think we did second and third grade age group, and then we took that curriculum and we tweaked it and made it, stripped it down to be real basic, and then we put in activities and tied in other videos, tied in other games, whatever that were at their level, that they could experience the same lesson that the typical kids were learning in their classrooms with their teachers as well.
So there would be potentially, you could either do kind of its own separate, if you had kind of the critical mass for it, as opposed to...
We visited a church a couple of months ago in the local area in Fullerton that their special needs VBS was its own week, its own complete program, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
They had a lot of kids, and I think that's just as important and just as doable. And who knows down the road, if this continues to grow, that could be a possibility. I mean, we limited our numbers. I think we limited to like 25, and we didn't quite. We got fairly close. We had like maybe 10 to.
I think
15,
by the end of the week, I think we only had maybe 6 kids with special needs, but with the volunteers and the people that were helping out, we had quite a few. We had quite a few people in that classroom, and it was a real learning experience.
And I think the great thing about continuing to do it year after year is the word will get around. The kids that came last summer, parents can share that with other special needs families that they know, and there aren't a lot of churches around here that offer that, so we're excited to be able to do it.
Well, you've touched on this a little bit as we've been getting into this, but talk a little bit about the planning and implementation, because you have a great idea, you have an obvious passion for this. How did you bring it, kind of in an organizational way? How did you get from this great idea to, the Monday or whatever that VBS began?
Well, it was awesome because I think we both played our own roles. Like Celeste did the structural aspect of it, the organizational aspect of it, and I took over the prep for the curriculum and the prep for tweaking everything and making sure we had sensory activities and sensory materials available. We were able to go into the the facility that Celeste chose was we call it the Boy Scout hut. It's a separate facility that's a little bit away from where everybody else is. It's also fenced in, individually fenced in, so that you can limit if you have any runners. Children with special needs, a lot of them have a tendency to flee a situation when they're frustrated or anxious, and so the gate being there was turned out to be an awesome thing for us to be able to shut the kids in when they wanted to run. And I thought it was really great having the facility set apart and set away as well for the check-in and the checkout, because a lot of the kids with the special needs have issues with large groups of people. They have anxiety and whatever. And when we had our big check-in, our mass check-in, this was a mistake that I made the first day, was just to have the people go and check in their kids with the mass check-in, and that didn't work out so well. Yeah, it was a little overwhelming. So we separated it and had kids check in every morning over there and kids check out over there. There was a lot of fly by the seat of our pants, don't you think, with the implementation of it? Because you kind of don't know what's going to happen, because the needs of the kids are so vastly different. You've got some kids, like we had one young lady who was Asperger's, incredibly bright, even social. And then we had one who had issues with going to the bathroom. Wasn't verbal at all. So it runs the gamut, and you really don't know what you're going to get until you get there. So I think a huge key to it was just being flexible.
Yeah. And prepare as much as you can for the unexpected, and go with the flow. And it was different from day to day, what the needs were and how the kids were doing. But I think we couldn't have done it without people like Heather. We had another leader, Kelly, who is also a special ed teacher. I think just finding people in your congregation that already work with special needs kids, and if that's their passion or that's even their career, just to tap into their knowledge. And even if it's behind the scenes helping you work through the curriculum, even if they can't physically be there that week, just to use their resources.
So then part of the process would have been figuring out kind of what range of special needs are you able to accommodate,
right.
What kinds of things would you need to be prepared for, to have, an autistic child or whatnot, and what you can expect. Did you do any kind of a walkthrough with your volunteers so that they had kind of a baseline of what they could or couldn't expect, or based on the particular special needs of an individual child, so that they'd have the sense of this is how this child might react to this type of a situation?
Well, when we did our registration, it was all online, and so we had a section in the registration where the parents could go into detail about their child, the special needs that they had, and just typical behaviors, that kind of thing. So we knew ahead of time what some of those challenges were going to be. And I don't know how much detail we went into with the volunteers. We probably could have.
That's one thing I think I would change.
Better job of that next year.
We had the kids that were working with our group come early that first day, and we sat and we talked with them, and we said, all right, this is kind of going to be a baptism by fire. We're not really sure what's going to happen. We just need everybody to be kind of on their guard and available and willing. And I gave them an out that even that very first morning, I was like, if this is not something that you're willing to do, because you might have a kid who spits food at you, you might have a kid who pees on you, you never know. And so I gave them an out that first morning and said, if you really don't want to do this, then that's fine. You just let me know. And they all kind of hung in there. But I think as a volunteer group, the teachers, Sherry and Kelly and myself, I think we sat down and we did a little bit of troubleshooting, especially with Kelly, to say, okay, what could go wrong? How are we going to handle that kind of a situation if it does go wrong? We also talked about what are some fairly common ways that we can soothe a child who's having an issue. And we were able to get things like the TV and the VCR over there, snacks and stuff over there, etc., to be able to try to make it as, non-invasive as possible, not scary.
coming at this a different direction, thinking about, if someone wants to propose this kind of a thing within their church, what kind of buy-in did you feel you needed to get or really needed to get from the leadership of the church to say, yes, we're going to go after doing this?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think we experienced any hesitation whatsoever. I can honestly 100% say everyone that we talked to in the idea stage and the planning stage was totally behind it. I think if you have the people in place and you have the resources, it's really just a matter of getting the word out to your church and to your community. So I think, if you can show that, like I said, if you have professionals that really know what they're doing, have worked with kids like this before, probably you won't experience a lot of hesitation from your leaders. Everybody here was 100% behind trying it. So
the one thing I would add to that is that it's becoming so much more common to have kids with special needs that even the church staff is not removed from that. They're not removed from having a nephew or a grandson or a child that has a special need from one degree or another. So it's not. I'm not saying that I want to play that card, but I don't think that any staff is necessarily going to have a huge problem with it when they reach kind of into their own life and their own experience with the those disabilities and those issues with the kids. And I thought it was very endearing how supportive everybody was.
It was really encouraging.
Yeah.
Good.
So then, looking at you're getting, and we kind of touched again on this a little bit with, having, yourself and others who have a bit of an expertise with special needs students. When you were looking at putting others together in the team, kind of to be hands-on with those students, what were you looking for? What goes in, or what would you kind of recommend to go in to say, for volunteers, what are you looking for?
Yeah, we also have an online registration process for the volunteers. So they have an opportunity to choose which area they want to serve in. It could be anywhere from games to Bible adventures to snacks. And we had our own category for the special needs group. And that is a great place to communicate to people. These are the qualities that we're looking for. And we do that for each of our volunteer areas. So we were looking for things like patience and flexibility and just a heart for these kids. And we, like Heather said, we had a lot of junior high kids that specifically signed up to help in that area. The junior high kids are probably some of our best volunteers just across the board at VBS. They have tons of energy. They can keep up with these kids. But, sometimes the kids are more energetic even than the adults. So I would say tap into your youth. And because a lot of times they maybe even have a greater heart for these kids than maybe an adult would have.
And with those volunteers, it was very interesting because in talking with them when we were over there, it's like, so why? Why did you want to help, with the special needs kids? And I know my middle son, who is typical, he was like, because I love my Bubba, which is his older brother, and I get it. And another kid was like, my neighbor is autistic and I love that kid. And another kid was like, I have a cousin who's autistic. It was very interesting because it gave you kind of a glimpse into, and I had another kid that was like, it's service hours for high school, man. But, what are you going to do?
Fine no matter what.
Yeah. At least you get the honesty.
Yeah. But we had another student over at, I think it was Fullerton, that was studying to go into speech therapy, who thought, oh my word, this will be fantastic. And in putting together our teaching staff for that class, we definitely tapped into the whole idea of professionals in the field. We have quite a few here at the congregation that are either special ed teachers like Kelly Skillman, who she was our head teacher, and then I'm an aide with Orange Unified for kids with special needs, and I recruited another aide from Orange Unified to come and help as well, so that we made sure that the parents felt comfortable with leaving their kids. We had a gal call, I think it was the very first morning, call the church office and say, I have a child with special needs and I would love for her to come to your VBS. Can I bring her? And our secretary was like, sure, bring her. And she goes, no. And she started to cry. She says, you don't understand. My child is like a 2-year-old. My child's in a diaper. My child can't speak. My child, throws tantrums. Do you still want her? And our secretary ran out and found me and said, she's crying and she really wants to know if we can handle this. And I told our secretary, I said, tell her that we've got a trained professional staff and we've got lots of volunteers, and yes, bring her. And it was probably one of the coolest experiences of the week.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. When we did all of our promotion, we made a point of including that, this group will be led by special ed professionals. I think when people see that, it's very reassuring that they can trust us. You feel comfortable placing your kid here for the week, and so I think that's an important thing to include when you're promoting it and you're communicating with parents. That, we may not be perfect, but we know what we're doing, and we have experienced leaders.
So what kind of fun challenges came up during the week? Because, not everything, you can't anticipate everything, and hooray for flexibility. So what kind of curveballs did the week throw at you?
Well, we had a couple kids who were Asperger's, were very high functioning, who registered for regular classes, who then got into the regular classes, and the teachers and the volunteers in the regular classes were kind of like, we need a little bit of extra help. And thinking of one student in particular, she was with a regular class, and she went home and she was like, I hate this. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. And the next day, she was with our class, and she's like, I love this. I love this, I love this, I love this. And she then, at the end of the class, she got up, she wrote a little cheer for our team, for our class, and she and I still keep in touch on emailing. She emails me. I've gone and checked out, she had a few things in a fair, whatever, and I went and I looked, I checked it out, and we've been conversing and talking. So you kind of never know what you're going to get. It was super fun, though. I'm so glad. But another issue that I don't necessarily think I think that it was a Holy Spirit thing, was the gate around where we were, because for a while we had a volunteer sitting in the doorway trying to catch kids that were trying to take off. So it was wonderful to have that gate there to shut things down immediately. And the bathroom issue, I think that's another thing that we should probably remember for next year, is request that the parents pack at least 2 extra pairs of clothes for their child, especially if their child is, period, I think across the board, but especially if their child is diapered. Another thing is encouraging them to bring snacks. A lot of children with special needs have an allergy to one food or to another, so encouraging them to pack snacks for their child so that there won't be a problem. Is there anything
good point
that you can think about?
I don't think I can. Nothing else comes to mind. I think just being prepared for, like you said, being prepared maybe for kids to join your group halfway through the week. And I think this being the first year that we did this, next year we'll do an even better job of communicating with the families that we have a unique group just for these kids. Not that they wouldn't be welcome in another crew, but we really have something tailored just for them. I think you can cut down on that, but yeah, just be prepared for unexpected.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It was fun. It was fun to watch those kids and just see the joy on their faces, and they loved it.
Well, sort of to wrap things up, I think this kind of is a good way to do this, but it kind of walk us through like do's, don'ts. You've done this once, you're looking out to next year, a list for yourself or something that, since we're sharing this, what would you say? What would an absolute do, you got to do this and steer clear over here?
Definitely get special ed professionals involved with the tweaking of the curriculum and with troubleshooting and with leading the classes. That's got to be your main focus, your main staff. Again, for parental comfort zone and to be able to handle the unexpected. And overstaff. Yeah. Overstaff volunteer-wise. The other special needs VBS that we went to, they had if I remember, it was either one or two. I think it was one for the fairly, not for the lower, what's the word I'm looking for? Intense kids. They would have one volunteer per child. They called them a friend. And then they had, for those that were a little bit more intense, they had two volunteers for. And it was really neat to watch.
That's neat.
That was great. Having a confined area is definitely a do to keep the kids safe. And pray a lot. Pray a lot. What are your do's?
Oh, well, when you touched on the VBS that we visited, the other special needs VBS in another church in the area, I love that they let the kids bring a buddy with them. Like Heather's son got to bring his brother along, and he was his buddy. So right away, I would love to try that.
That would be cool.
Because right away, the kids have somebody with them that they already know, they're comfortable with them, it's less intimidating. I can only imagine even a typical kid going into a setting where they don't know anyone, that can be really scary, let alone a special needs child. So maybe even letting them bring a sibling or a friend from school. And I can't take credit for that idea, but we saw it at another church and it seemed to work really well. They're more in their comfort zone. And I would say too, don't be afraid to limit the number of kids that you're willing to accept into the program. You want to be able to do a good job serving them individually, and don't be afraid to start small. If you feel like you only have the resources to take 10 kids, it's something, and it's meeting their needs. So, and you can obviously grow it from there. And I think too, just really train your volunteers well. I think next year we want to do an even better job of that, having a special training just for them, giving them more tools to know how to react to certain situations and certain needs of kids. But
one more do is over advertise and be very clear in your advertising. I think that's another thing that we need to probably spend a little bit more brain power on is in advertising with your church, with the other LCMS churches, with other special ed programs, all of it. Just advertising as much as you possibly can. And then also in regard to when you're registering as a volunteer or registering as a student, making sure that there's enough information there where they'll kind of know a little bit more about what they're getting into and that kind of thing.
Anything on the don't side, things to kind of make sure to watch out for?
Don't freak out about sticking to your schedule because, if you're like, I have to be here and 20 minutes later I have to be there, a lot of the times with children with special needs, they're meanderers. They're just kind of lollygaggers, and it might take you 25
No
minutes to
longer.
get
Yeah.
from
Over to
point A to
games.
point B, and it's okay. It's okay as long. The biggest thing that you can do that will communicate Jesus to these kids is serve them and love them with the love of Jesus, and that if you do that, whether or not they get their craft done or whether or not they get to the activities field, ain't gonna matter.
That's a
It's
good
just
point.
gonna be your prayer for every day is may they just see the love of Jesus through me today. And if you're doing that, then you're doing your job.
Yeah, because sticking to a VBS schedule is not an easy thing to do, but I like that comment. Just, yeah, do what's in the best interest of the kids rather than maybe yourself as a leader. So yeah, I think that touches on what I was going to say is don't put the needs of yourself as a leader first. Just and it's
Definitely.
simple but so true. Just focus your energies on them and what they need, and maybe it may not always work best for you all the time, but if it's meeting their needs and if it's showing them God's love, then it is the best thing in the long run. So
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Heather, Celeste, I thank you for your time for this. I thank you for your efforts. I mean, I think we all pray for great blessings to come for this ministry as it develops, and look forward to hearing great things about what next year looks like.
yeah,
So, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.